YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. Welcome to my review for Power Rangers Darkest Hour 1. This is the final one-shot concluding the Darkest Hour event, and also concluding the storyline that began with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 0 years ago. Now, we know the comics are continuing. They announced that Boom has the license still as of Comic-Con. There's been a couple of one-shots announced, like Power Rangers Infinity, which is going to be an anthology series with stories written by the actors. We have that upcoming crossover with Unagi, or whatever his name is, and we have that Power Rangers Infinite comic 2, which is kind of like a fun one-off thing that's going to tie into it. And then they announced that a main series will continue in the form of Power Rangers Prime in November. But we don't know anything about that. It just says brand new Mighty Morphin stories. It seems like it's going to be something of a refresh. I'll talk about more about that at the end. But this is supposed to be hyped up as the main end of the comic they've been running. And so there's presumably going to be a new continuity after this or something to that effect. And so that's kind of a lot to live up to. It's not just like ending this arc, but it's meant to end everything. And it's kind of impossible to deliver a satisfying ending that'll please everybody. I'll say that I overall did like it. I really did like this event. There was so much I liked about this event, but I definitely felt a little unsatisfied by the ending, both in terms of the ending of the arc just overall felt a little bit rushed and anticlimactic, which kind of happens with a lot of things when there's build up in general, but also left off on a very incomplete note, which I have mixed feelings on. But let's delve into the positives first. It was really cool to see just a bunch of the Rangers together in terms of like all these Rangers from across the seasons, and you have this nice epic battle feeling. You know, definitely different than Shattered Grid in terms of this, because if I remember right, the last main issue of Shattered Grid was about the battle, and then the lion's share of the issue of the one-shot ending was more about Draken and his world. So this did have a little bit more battle stuff going on, and it was cool to see all the different Rangers they pulled in from different seasons. You know, I always think it's neat when they bring in ones from the most recent season, ones that's available, because they have Cosmic Fury Gold in there, and then you also have, at one point I saw A-Squad Red, or A-Squad one of them, and that makes me curious about their story. Like, is that pulled from a point in the timeline before they turned evil, or is this after they turned evil for some gold coins from Grum? Like, I'd love to know that storyline, but it was cool to see, and I also still love the designs of the Corrupted Rangers. You know, we get to see a bunch of them from the various seasons. It's such a simple effect, but I think it just works so well, because it comes off unique on so many of the Rangers. Like, if Power Rangers was an important franchise that Hasbro worked on, I could totally see them making a bunch of figures for this. I would just love to see that. And there was also some nice little moments, like Tommy came in from the Dino Thunder timeline, and there was a funny little bit where Jason's like, there's another Tommy here, and he's talking to Prime Tommy about like, oh, a doctor, huh? It reminded me of that scene from Once a Ranger when Adam says, still can't believe he's a doctor. And it also reminded me of back when Shattered Grid was happening. I was hoping that we were going to get a scene somehow between Draken and Dr. O, because they're kind of both the pinnacles of Tommy's life in terms of good and evil. I think we got a scene of him talking to Zeo Ranger 5 Tommy in that annual when he had him tied up, but I thought because they were doing multiversal time travel stuff, that would have been an interesting opportunity to see the like ultimate evolution of Tommy's evil side and good side interact. But nonetheless, it was a fun little beat. I also like that they had some time for some nice little character moments from some of the couples like Trini and Zach, Tommy and Kim, even bringing back Candace for Bulk and Skull, or not Bulk and Skull, well maybe that's what's going to happen after this. It was just nice that they acknowledged that. And in general, there was also just all kinds of nice little callbacks and references, and they included almost everything they've introduced. You know, the Solar Rangers were involved majorly, the new Dark Rangers popped up. It definitely felt like in moments it was meant to be this culmination of the history of the comic, which I really did appreciate. Speaking of seeing all the Rangers together, it was really cool. Samurai Forever, no, but it was really cool seeing all the Rangers morph together in the final thing where they kind of purged Dark Spectre out, just seeing all these Rangers from different parts of history. And there is something I like about the fact that this does have consequences. You know, in general, when you have multiversal events and there's some sort of reset, to a degree, that is a consequence because the universe is all reset, like Shattered Grid created in a new universe, new reality, so there's always consequences. But the fact that there is some like casualties, like Grace and Coinless Trini and Kia are still missing, and the grid is still apparently shattered, I do like that there's consequences, because sometimes that's swept under the rug. We might not ever get to see that dealt with, but I do kind of like that. And there was something intriguing about the final shots of Billy and him kind of still being on this journey to fix things, and he has this mysterious looking version of the Morpher that looks like a ninja star, or like those little pins you can buy at the Morphers. It makes me curious what the story behind that is. And there is something to be said about kind of aspects of that ending that I like. With that being said, I still have mixed feelings on it. Again, for the mixed and negatives, it just felt a little bit kind of rushed, and I don't know, anticlimactic. I think Shattered Grid felt much more satisfying as a conclusion. Like, I did like this arc a lot, but I think Shattered Grid just ended better. And I might do a video in a couple weeks when I feel the time is right and do just kind of like an overall thoughts on Darkest Hour and comparing it to Shattered Grid a little bit. Not like shot by shot or beat for beat, but just kind of general feelings about it. But it just felt a little bit rushed. Like, for a story that I thought was pretty well paced and had all these elements that they brought in from the different parts of the lore and bringing like time for character moments, it just felt like they needed to get to the conclusion and figure out the simplest way to do it. And even though I like some of the open-endedness, it just felt too open-ended for this big hyped up conclusion to the comics. And I don't mind open-ended endings where you kind of leave it off on a note where you can kind of imagine what the next adventure is. Like, if the comic had ended with an ending similar to Shattered Grid, where they reset the universe and everything just kind of cut to white. You know, obviously you want to know what happens next, you're curious, but it's enough of a satisfying conclusion that you can kind of imagine like those characters are still off having adventures, you can imagine how the world has changed. So it left it open-ended, but this felt like it had so many specifics, like because things were so specifically still broken, there were specific people missing, there were so many character fates I was curious about because we brought up so many different characters' stories like Rita's and Matt's, that I felt like I wanted like an epilogue scene or something just for the characters. Like, it felt like there was so much left unfinished. And again, because they're hyping it so much as the end, I'm surprised they left it so messily open-ended. I really am curious if we're ever going to get like a follow-up to this in any form, because Boom still owns the license, so they could pick this up in some form. I mean, I'm not sure what they're doing for Power Rangers Prime. By the time this goes up, maybe we'll know what they're doing. I said when I talked about it in the announcement video that it could still be connected to this loosely, meaning it could very much feel like a reboot, refresh, but it could be like maybe a world created as a result of this, and then later down the line when they do another event, they could connect the two. But I don't think it's going to be as direct of a continuation, because I think this is definitely meant to be something that's created for a jumping on point for new viewers. But because they left it so specifically open-ended, even though they said the end, I would love for them to continue this at some point. I don't think they're going to bring back this and like get rid of Power Rangers Prime at some point, but I could totally see them doing a mini-series or a one-shot or a graphic novel that returns to this universe for maybe some closure. But yeah, I mean, it was okay. I enjoyed it. I liked parts of it, but I definitely am disappointed that it left things on such, like I said, a messily open-ended note, just because there are so many different things I would have liked to have seen closure on, from bigger, like, broad strokes to character endings. Like, there was, like I said, there were so many characters that I feel we specifically touched upon. It was weird that then their stories kind of floated away and then we never, like, touched upon it here at the end. But I gotta say, though, overall, I still adore the comics. It's still my favorite Power Rangers universe. You know, I consider that the main one in my head, and I'm glad they're going to be continuing, and I'd be very curious to see where Power Rangers Prime goes. But let me know what you thought of the ending in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.